Bailey.
Yes.
Crane.
Yes.
Devlin.
Of course, boss.
Farley.
Yes.
Goubert. Goubert.
Yeah.
Yes. You don't seem to be with us today, Goubert, at least not in spirit.
I'm sorry, Brother Leon.
Let me remind you that this is a project by the students, for the students. This is your sale, your project.
Yes, Brother Leon.
Good. Then you accept?
Of course, Brother Leon.
Hartnett.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Why not?
McCloskey.
Sure.
Perkins.
Yes.
Renault. Renault. You are here, aren't you, Renault? It's last call, Renault.
No. No.
You did say no, Renault.
Yes.
Now, let me make this clear. Yes means that, like every other student in this school, you agree to sell 50 boxes of chocolates. No, and let me point out that Trinity forces no one to participate against his wishes. That is the great glory of Trinity. No means that you don't want to sell the chocolates. So now, what is your answer, yes or no?
No.
Hello and welcome to Book versus Movie. This is a podcast where we read books that have been adapted into movies, and then we try to decide which we like better, the book or the movie. I am Margot P. of coloniabook.com, and this is my good friend and co-host, Margot D. of Brooklyn Fitchick.
Hi, everyone.
Ooh, I got through that without coughing.
I know.
Whew. So listen, y'all. Here's the thing. When the pandemic started, we made a commitment to do a brand new episode every single week. We didn't think it would go on as long as it's gone on. And so last week, Margot D, this is Margot P talking, Margot D, in case y'all don't know, Margot D has a book coming out. We'll be talking about it from time to time. So we decided to take last week off.
Just willy-nilly, actually.
Just because.
Just because it was Labor Day, and we just figured,
We hadn't taken one in a really long time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like as soon as we made that decision, like literally that day, I came down with COVID. And I've been sick with COVID until basically like yesterday. And I still have like little lingering things. So pardon me if you hear me like clearing my throat. I will try to mute before I cough. I still have that lingering COVID cough. I was just saying before we came on the air, and the fatigue thing is really weird. And I mean, I'm vaxxed and boosted, and this thing kicked my booty. I was absolutely miserable for 2 weeks. I wish I had enjoyed the time off. To me, it's like the 2 weeks didn't even happen. All of a sudden yesterday I have to watch this movie. I finally felt well enough to follow a movie. But anyway, so if you hear me clearing my throat or whatnot, that's what's going on. And let this, please wear a mask. I mean, all we could do is ask politely. Please wear a mask, because I could tell you, I was definitely, first of all, I was wearing a mask when I got this, I'm pretty sure. But I was just surrounded by people who were coughing, and, I don't know if it went in my eyes or on my skin or I don't know what, but, this thing can get you. Mm-hmm. So mask up, y'all. Now that little PSA over with, today we are actually talking about a book and a movie, and I'm very excited to talk about both of them. But we're also considering, because we're doing a new episode every week, we're considering shorter literary sources. So anything that's an adaptation from any kind of literary source. It might be a play. It might be a magazine article. It might be a song. We recently did one that was a This American Life story.
Yes, that was great.
That was really fun. So if you have suggestions for film adaptations that you would like us to cover, this month it's September, so we're doing Banned Book Month, which is very exciting. There's a few places where you can make those suggestions to us. You can meet other listeners of this podcast on the internet.
Yes, we do have a basic Facebook page. Be sure to like it. All the episodes are posted there. But we also have a private Facebook group, and that's a great place to also interact with other people of the show, especially if you're curious if we've covered episodes before, books before, because our episodes kind of go back only a couple of years. So it's a Book vs. Movie podcast group. Ask to join. Come on in. It's literally... People overuse that word, but I'm just telling you, people just talk about books and movies there and the episodes and show ideas. It needs to be a book that we can get our hands on, and it needs to be a movie we can also be able to stream easily. So it's got to be on a major streaming service. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Book versus a Movie. Just spelled it all out. You could also just send us an old-timey email, Book versus Movie Podcast, spelled it all out at gmail.com. Send us your suggestions there. Or if you would like stickers or a magnet, ask us. We will drop them in the mail for you. We're happy to do that. And once again, it does have to be, the book has to be something that we don't have to like fight for on eBay. And the same with the movie. It can't be like a lost DVD we have to get somewhere. But other than that, magazines, song titles, we do have to say, because I want to say October is coming. We do say scary movies and spooky movies. Margot P is not into the really horror stuff. So
I don't want like slashing.
Most Stephen King.
No, I don't want any kind of movie where I'm worried about like who's going to clean up this mess, basically.
So please just keep that in mind. So we have Spooky Movie coming up, and we're going to do Disney in December. Banned Book Month is now in September, but we're, like she said, we're always looking for suggestions.
And if you really enjoy the show and would like to help keep us in books and movies, you can also support us on Patreon.
Yes, Patreon. We have almost 200 episodes there. We've been doing the show for 8 years. We have really fabulous episodes. We're starting to put everything from 2020 and then previous to that up on our Patreon wall. We have a couple of very, very affordable options, and we want to thank everyone who chooses to do that. We are looking to get a yearly option. It's just one of those things. We have to get enough people to sign up for the monthly, and then we'll be able to offer a yearly. Patreon's just like that. But honestly, if money is tight, we totally understand that. We just ask that wherever you get your podcast, if you could leave us a few stars or just like the episode or share it on social media or really just tell a friend about the show. We would just really appreciate that.
Now, today's episode is The Chocolate War by Robert Cormier. We were just saying before we got on the air that we read this as students ourselves back in the day. My mom was she's retired now, but she was an English teacher. In those days, we called it junior high. In these days, we call it middle school. So consequently, we had, hundreds of YA books in the house all the time. And my mom, because I was a big reader even then, my mom often would ask me to read this or that book, even when I wasn't quite that age, to see how I liked it, to see what I thought about it before she was considered, doing it with her class. Two of my favorite books that I remember that she passed along to me were both by Robert Cormier. One was The Chocolate War, which we're going to talk about today. And the other was a book called I Am the Cheese. Did you ever read that one, Margot?
I feel like I did. That does ring a bell. I read so much back then.
It's about, spoiler alert, it's about a boy gradually discovers that his family is in the witness protection program.
Oh, yes, I did read that
so
one.
interesting. Yeah, it's really good.
Yes. Do you remember the
And
Pig
I really
Man?
loved I loved The Pig Man.
The Pig Man.
Oh my God, I love that book. I have to get that for my kids to read because that was definitely, that's another one that my mom brought for me to read, I remember, and I loved it. That's such a great book. The Chocolate War, the book came out in 1974.
Yes.
And the movie came out in 1988. So two completely different eras in our culture. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But before we begin, let's talk about our author. He's a really interesting guy.
Yes, Robert Cormier. He was born 1925. He's from Massachusetts. He grew up in going to Catholic schools and private Catholic schools. He wrote young adult material his whole life. always been a writer. He's very, very successful. This is one of his most popular ones, was The Chocolate War, also an I Am the Cheese. A few of his works have been adapted. The Chocolate War has also, there was a sequel to it called Beyond the Chocolate War, and that came out. I didn't read that one, but I read the summary of it.
I read it, but I don't remember it. I have to say, I don't remember it as well as I remember the first one.
No, I mean, he seems like he wrote consistently throughout his career, and the Chocolate War I didn't realize, because this is one of those books everybody read. I mean, it was passed out to, but it's one where a lot of schools, I think like a lot of Catholic schools had a problem with it, because we'll talk about the story, but it's a story about kids being abusive to one another. There's language, there's talk of masturbation and teenage things. Woo.
It's so tame, you guys. It's
very tame.
He was born in 1925. It's
right.
not gonna, it's not, yeah.
And it's pretty, it's about townies and rich kids, and there's a lot, and also it's very white male centered. I mean, this is a very, it's.
Oh, everybody white
yes,
in this. Yeah,
right.
Both the book and the movie. Yeah.
And it's like a separate piece, and all these other books that we kind of grew up. I think, did you guys ever read a book? I remember as a girl, we read, it was called The Girl Without a City, I think that was called. And it was about, there's this plague that hits the world, and all the adults die. And the kids have to kind of figure out life on their own. There's one girl, like they take over the school. And that was like the only time I remember. And I think
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, and I think the only reason that we got it because the girl was a protagonist. It wasn't even that great, but we were all excited because, like, oh my god, it's a girl and she's like the leader, and everybody's asking her opinion.
You guys, it was so unusual. I'm so glad that is not the case anymore.
Right?
Yeah, it was weird to have a female protagonist for many, 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 many years. Yes. Certainly all through our high school years, I would say.
It's all J.D. Salinger. It's, all that stuff. And this is included in that. I mean, these are the stories. And it's a great story, and it's a weird story. And I remember when I read it when I was young, it really bothered me. It got to me. I really felt bad for this kid. Should we kind of go through like what the basic plot is?
Did you go to Catholic? I keep reminding me. Did you go to Catholic school, or you did the whole CCD thing?
CCD. My parents went to Catholic school, and they were like, "No way."
Same. I went to Catholic school. My parents had not gone to Catholic school, in their defense, so they had a not the most realistic idea of what it was like. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying they meant well. But we sold chocolate. We certainly did. And although I had read, it's very interesting because I went to Catholic school. I went to public school up until again, we call it junior high. And then I switched to Catholic. I went to a Catholic middle school and high school. And I had read The Chocolate War. I think most of my classmates had read The Chocolate War when I was in public school, like in 5th and 6th grade. We probably read it then. When I changed from public school to Catholic school, none of my peers knew this book.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me. That's why
we were selling chocolate, and I was like, "Oh yeah, just like in The Chocolate War, right?" And people were like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah,
I don't know. No, you couldn't find it. I don't think we had it. Probably not in our library.
Good reason.
Yeah, and yet, gosh, I can't say it's like completely out there from what I experienced. I didn't go to an all-boys school, of course, but there was some stuff that went down. So yeah, it's a Catholic school in the 1970s, we should say. And again, mm-hmm. Robert Cormier is born in 1925. Mm-hmm. So doing math. So he's like 50. He's like our age. Mm-hmm. And he's writing about, kids who are 13, 14, 15, really effectively. I mean, I think he really captures that. That's what's so great about this book that unfortunately, we'll talk about the movie in a little bit, but unfortunately does not translate to the movie. And by the way, we're going to spoil absolutely everything, is that so much of the book is the internal processes of all these boys. You have what's going on in the mind of the bully, what's going on in the mind of the nerdy geeky kid, what's going on in the mind. You get everybody's how they're dealing with what's going on, and everybody has a slightly different take on it, and that's what kind of makes it so interesting. Mm-hmm. Is everybody's internal viewpoint
dialogue
that they never say out loud. Like what they actually say out loud is what you say out loud when you're that age. Like, hey, how's it hanging? Just like dumb stuff. But all of this stuff that's going on in their minds is what's so interesting.
We have Jerry, and Jerry, what's his last name? I'm sorry.
Renault, like the
Renault.
car.
Renault, like the car. Thank you. That helps me. Jerry is a freshman in high school, and his dad owns a shop, a store, and his mother had just
He's not
died.
rich.
No, and he's one of the townies, and his dad has a retail store, and his mother dies the previous spring, and I always feel bad. I mean, God, because I know it's like to lose both my parents, but like to lose a parent.
But at that young, I
But
can't
that
even
young,
imagine.
I don't know.
At that very difficult age.
Very, very challenging. And he's an only child, so he doesn't have anybody to talk to. And he goes to the school, and he finds out pretty quickly that it's a boys' school, and they have to wear like the jacket and tie.
And he's a freshman in high school. So it's all brand new. So he's gone through this horrible life change. And he's also now been kind of plunked into this high school situation where he doesn't really know anybody. And, and this is true of all high schools, I think, but it's especially true of Catholic high schools, that there's like an established order and culture of the school. And when you show up as a freshman, you're like, why are we, what's this about? So he's just really a fish out of water.
I moved, actually. My parents worked for IBM, so we had to move every few years. So I moved 10th grade, and I moved 8th grade and 10th grade. Great times to move, by the way. Oh, yeah. So it brings up a lot of stuff. But he drops there, and he's trying to fit in. He wants to play football, but he's kind of small. He's like 5'9", real skinny. He has a couple of friends, and it's just an age where you just don't know yourself, and you're just trying to make it. It's also Catholic schools. I don't know if you've heard about it. They're rough places. That's just why my parents wouldn't send us to them.
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's not.
My dad talks about nuns rapping him on the knuckles with the ruler because he used a ballpoint pen. He refused to use.
Seriously.
Yeah.
No, for real.
Yeah.
I once saw a nun. I would like to think that I imagined this. Maybe
Right.
I did. But I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that I once saw a nun whack a kid over the head with like a 3-wing binder. For what? Singing off key. I mean, it's absurd. Like, the rules make no sense. No sense.
My mom had a priest, a history teacher. She swore he was drunk, and he would just smoke cigarettes. Just was like a pop quiz almost every day. And if you got it wrong, you had to go to the chalkboard. And she just pop quizzes made her so nervous. Like if we told Mom, "Oh, I failed a pop quiz," she would just be like, "I understand, it's fine." She always anyway. Catholic school is very tough, and especially when his generation went, it was the Wild West, I'm sure. But we have Brother Leon, who's the priest that's sort of the priest in charge. He's a teacher, and there's another priest there that's sick and is not around very much, and so he's kind of vying to run the whole school.
Yeah, it's like there's a head. So I'm guessing it's sort of, they don't say explicitly, but I'm guessing it's like a Jesuit sort of a thing. Mm-hmm. Which we had brothers, quote unquote brothers. Again, even growing up as a Catholic, I don't quite understand the whole hierarchy of how that works. But yeah, our principal was a brother something or other. But yeah, there's a brother who's the headmaster, and he's not well, so he's kind of absent for the whole book. And so then you have Brother Leon, who's sort of imagine it's sort of like the vice principal, mm-hmm. and he's seeing a chance to ooh, this is my chance for a power grab, and I'm going to run the school because I'm like the whole time I'm like, what are you getting out of that, dude? It's not money. What is your deal?
Well, you're supposed to give that up, right? When you join?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I didn't know the Feast of the Epiphany until my late 20s, and I'd grown up Catholic. I mean, there's just
well, that's a big Mexican thing, so that I knew. But yeah, it's weird.
There's lots of weird traditions. We grew up with this, and so anyway, he's dealing with the grief. He's dealing with being a freshman. He's dealing with this new school, and on top of everything, there's this clique, and they're called the Vigils, and they basically run around the school, and it's run by a guy named Archie, and then there's a kid named Obi who's his assistant, and Archie just basically leaves commands for people, and you have to do what Archie says or you will get the snot beaten out of you.
It's just about control and manipulation
and psychological abuse.
Mm-hmm.
He loves
it's
abusing
bullying.
people. It's bullying.
It's a tradition, and it's a tradition we're led to believe that is as much of a tradition as anything else that we're learning about at this school. Like it goes, we don't even know how far back it goes. And this is just the iteration that's going on that year. Yeah. And it's just messing with these boys, like bullying them into doing outrageous things like, I don't know, wearing your underwear outside of your pants kind of thing, or you're going to get beat up.
And it's more than just getting beat up. They'll just make it worse and worse and worse. It's like you're humiliated, but just do it one day and then they forget about it. And Brother Leon's in on it. He knows that this is happening. So he's going to align himself with Archie to get what he wants. And so there's this chocolate sale, and Brother Leon tells Archie, I need you to sell 20,000 boxes of chocolates. This is before Forrest Gump, by the way. So the boxes of chocolates becomes a thing. And Archie's like, we barely sold 10,000 last year. And that was for $1. How are we going to sell this? Because this stuff is garbage, too. We know this because we used to sell this stuff to people.
Oh, yeah.
And magazine subscriptions.
It's not good chocolate.
Stuff. And he says to him, if you do this, you'll get a special prize. And the last time they got to go to the city and they got the whole day off and stuff, find out that Brother Leon kind of borrowed some money he probably shouldn't have and needs to pay that
again
back.
Like why are you doing that? Like,
part of what,
so weird.
It's very bizarre, but he did. He's in Dutch. He's got to figure this out. And so the Vigils say to Jerry, you cannot sell for 10 days. When he asks how many are you going to sell, you say none, and that's just going to cause him all kinds of grief. And so he goes around the classroom and Jerry says, I will sell none. And it's no one's ever done that before. And it's, ooh. And he just goes along with it. There's the 10-day mark. They aren't selling as many chocolates. And then Jerry does a thing where he's just like, I'm just not going to sell them because I think this is dumb.
Yeah. You know what? No.
How about no? How about you get somebody else? And what happens is that the other kids start realizing, like, why are we following the rules here? This is dumb. I don't want to sell this chocolate. Why are we listening to the Vigils? They're a bunch of creeps. You know, Jerry's doing what he wants, and he's just a freshman. He's a skinny little freshman kid. Like, why are we even listening to Jerry? So it's getting escalated. And in the meantime, he has a crush on a girl in town. And there's a poor kid that wants to join the Vigils. And then there's a big kid that's a part of the Vigils that's like getting on Archie's case. Like, how come you're not keeping him in line? And it's escalating. And Archie's really, and Jerry's really leaning in like he's not going to do it.
He's really, and what I really think is, what I love about the book is you get everybody's, again, what's going on in their mind. And Jerry, even as he's saying no, and he's continuing to say no. First he says no because he's afraid, because he's being bullied into saying no for 10 days. And then, as he's going through that and the ostracization, and the reaction that he sees that it gets, he finds himself when the time is up and he has a choice to take the road of like playing along and selling the chocolates. He's like, yeah, no. And what I like is in the book, you see him like, he doesn't really know what is compelling him to continue to refuse to sell the chocolates. But there's just something in him that is just not going along with this. And he's a kid. He's like 15. And he can't identify all of his feelings. And so you see him working through all of that. I just think Cormier does such a wonderful job of writing that in a way that is exactly how someone that age, I think, would experience it. You don't have the emotional intelligence to identify, I feel a sense of rebellion because I'm tired of the system telling me what to do. He's not there. He's just like, I just think no.
He can't talk to his dad
all kinds
about
of things.
His father's in a state of grief that he can't talk about it, and he's not dealing with it well. It's, he doesn't, and your brain's not developed yet because you're only 15. There's all kinds of things going on here. And then it kind of goes into this very wacky place where Jerry is now being forced to box another kid. And they're being forced to a boxing match.
Yeah, the big mean bully kid who wants to be part of the Vigils.
Right. And so they're in a boxing match. And then what happens is that the kids write out what kind of punches are going to be thrown, and they have to.
And again, these are all boys,
children. They're kids, and so these kids are they're beating the crap out of one another, and Jerry just gets beaten up. He's in a
Yeah, so
ambulance.
they've just set it up so it's like a raffle, and you buy a raffle ticket, and part of your raffle ticket is that you have to write who you want to hit who and how in this boxing match. And most of the kids are buying tickets and asking for the bully to hit Jerry. Jerry has very few, and they're picking them out at random and calling them out at random.
Yeah.
And whichever kid's ticket gets pulled, who is the final knockout shot, that kid wins the pot of money that they've all put in to buy these tickets. It's disgusting.
And boxes of chocolate.
Yeah. Oh, and the 50 boxes of chocolate, right, that Jerry didn't sell.
It's
So-
very twisted.
This is where the book and the movie go completely different directions, okay? So again, we're going to spoil everything. In the book, we see a little bit more of the brothers who are running the school. There are 3 of them that we kind of get to know. Brother Leon, who's the craven one running the chocolate sale.
Mm-hmm.
We have brother that they take all the screws. The kid has to unscrew all the stuff in his classroom.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry.
But there's 3 of them. But anyway, so this one Jerry has one friend who's they call the goober or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's also being bullied by the Vigils. And his thing that he has to do is there's this one priest who's older, this one brother who's older, and he's one of their teachers. And he has to go in the middle of the night and loosen up every single screw in this classroom. All the desks, the chalkboard, the light switch, any screw he's got to it's not so it falls out, but just enough so that you barely touch it and the whole thing falls apart. So the next day in the classroom, everything collapses. And this brother is standing there, his whole classroom is collapsing around him. And he has a little bit of a break. He has a little bit of a breakdown. He has to go away for a little while. Goober, who's been bullied into doing this, he feels responsible, and he's the only one that feels bad about it. He feels really, really bad about it. And that's kind of his moment of really standing up to these people who are manipulating him. He kind of gets to that point earlier than Jerry. But Jerry, they're much sicker and more sadistic about it. Anyway, so the boxing match is happening. The bully hits Jerry, and Jerry goes down, and then the lights go out. Right before the lights go out, Goober, who's in the crowd, he sees that Brother Leon has been standing there watching the whole thing.
Yes.
And loving it, number one. And then we also find out that the lights went out because the brother, I think it's the one who had the brother Jacques, who's the one about the environment, which is another prank that happens that the kids are bullied into doing. He's the one that he sees what's happening. He goes and shuts the power out to the field where they're holding this crazy boxing match. And he is the one, Brother Jacques, confronts Archie about being the mastermind behind this whole thing and everything that's been going on. But basically, at the end of the story, Jerry is going to the hospital. We don't know. He's really, really hurt.
Yeah.
There's an ambulance. He's going to the hospital. Archie and Leon, who are really the villains, Archie, who's the kid villain, and Leon, who's the adult villain, they kind of nothing happens to them, really, except that the other brother, Jacques, is on to them. But nothing really happens to them in the story. They're both confronted about what they've done, but there's no recourse really that one can be brought against them. Archie is a kid. You kind of can't prove anything per se about what he's done or not done. The chocolates have sold. So Leon, although he did what he did very dishonestly and he broke a lot of rules and he took money he shouldn't have taken, it all kind of worked out for him. So, Jerry, who's thrown into this situation where he has to stand up to the system, is ultimately destroyed by it. And what he's upset about is not that, but that he, for a moment, got kind of involved. Well, he's basically, why did I even show up to this fight? Why was I even entertaining that? He's a kid. So, he and Goober are the only ones with consciences who are why are we putting up with this? We shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have played a role in this. But they both are, the system is just bigger than they are.
Right.
And that's the story. That's how it ends.
Yeah, it's a bummer, but what were you going to do? What can you do?
That's what happens. That's
You're
what would
just two
happen.
people. You're just two kids. You don't have a lot of power. You don't have any power. And the people over you do have the power, and they get away with it. Power corrupts, and
yeah, and I think it's a great book, and I think it really captures, like I said, that age. But I also really love how you have, with the Vigils and you have the school, you have these two institutions that have a system to uphold that is based on tradition and nothing else, as we do in our modern life. And when you see what happens, that like how fragile those systems are, that one kid can cause so much havoc. One kid just being like, yeah, I don't want to sell chocolates this year, can bring both of these systems to their knees. But ultimately, those two, the Vigils and the school, what happens is they two join together against him, and together they're just bigger than he is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's, I mean, that's what happens.
Yeah, and it's kind of a bummer, but he goes to the hospital. He has like a broken jaw.
Yeah, he's really, really hurt.
He's really hurt. He's really messed up. And there's a reason, because of language and stuff like that. That's a reason why it's on the banned book, still on the banned book list.
It comes up all the time. If you read it, I think you will be like, why is this on the banned book list? Again, it's about standing up to bullies. Mm-hmm. Why would you not want your child to read that? Yeah. You always have to ask about the banned books. And, we'll talk about this, I'm sure, every week this month. But the thing with the banned books, when something is banned, you have to ask why and like who's benefiting from it being banned. Mm-hmm. Why is it, what is the grounds that were given for banning a book? I can see why my Catholic school maybe wouldn't have this book. Did they out and out call it banned? I don't think they did, but they certainly didn't make it like readily available for people. So, it doesn't have a lot of swearing.
Not really.
But it doesn't have a lot of violence. It has it doesn't have a lot of violence except for the fight at the end. I mean, it's not that violent.
I don't know if there's any drugs. I don't know if they drink.
No, they don't. I don't even think they smoke.
I think he mentions masturbation just a couple of times, and not even very graphically, and not
in passing. Not like I'm going off to masturbate now. It's just it's very indirect.
It's very indirect.
And it's a boys' school of teenage boys. Like it's going to come up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So why banned? Interesting. I don't know. It makes me think a lot about reading it now as an adult. I got to see John Lewis speak a couple years ago before he passed.
Yeah.
And which was like as amazing as you would think it would be. But one of the things that I remember him talking about, because he was talking about the civil rights movement, and he said, one of the things that people don't talk about enough with the civil rights movement is how it was a movement that was really carried out and manned, if you will, by kids, by students. Mm. And I remember him saying, why aren't we taught that, and who benefits from us not knowing that it was students and kids who were out there on the streets and making this change, basically. And I kind of thought about that reading this book, because he is just, he's the youngest of the kids in this, he's the youngest kid in the story. And yet he has a power that even he doesn't understand, mm-hmm. to bring down two unjust institutions. But again, he's a kid. He doesn't have the ability to harness that power. He doesn't have anybody backing him up. I think if he had even his dad backing him up, it would be a completely different outcome, but he doesn't. And so he's kind of overwhelmed by this system, if you will. So why don't we want kids to know about that? Really interesting. Because there isn't anything, you're right. There's nothing like, okay, maybe it puts the church in a bad light, but not really. It's really just this one bad brother. Yeah, he's not, they're not trying to hold him up as like a paragon of anything. Like we're to understand he's a weird dude. Yeah. Even among the other brothers at the school, he's like strangely power hungry. It's weird.
Especially everything we've learned about the Catholic Church in the last 20 plus years, I think. That we weren't talking when we were younger?
Are we really going to throw stones here?
Really?
Yeah. So, very, very interesting. I think if you've not read the book, if you've only seen the movie, do yourself a favor, read this book. But let's talk about this movie, which is, again, a completely different era than the book.
2 more names.
Your name is Roland Goobert.
Tell me why you're here! For an assignment. Who the hell do they think I am?
I'm in charge here now. The entire school is my responsibility. Don't ever forget that. If the sale goes down the drain, you and the Vigils go down the drain.
1 more name. The kid who just left the field. When they wiped out.
Kid named Renault, freshman. His mother just died.
Poor kid. That must be hard. You know what he needs?
What?
Therapy. We can't make your life very bad. Very sad. It's your mother, Jerry. She's proud of you. Put him down for the chocolates.
This is more than a sale. It is a crusade.
I'm not going to sell the chocolates.
The boys have become infected. A terrible disease, difficult to cure.
You're missing a lot of things, Jerry.
We're just asking you to take the chocolates and sell them.
We're not asking Archie. We're telling.
Why keep them coming?
Cut out magazines. Remind me. I sit and wait alone
Thy will be done.
in my room.
Yeah, 1988. So we picked this movie because this past summer on Netflix on Stranger Things, Kate Bush became a superstar again, which should always happen. I mean, as far as you and I are concerned.
Absolutely.
This is our generation running up that hill, which is one of those powerful songs, and she's just an amazing performer. And just look her up on YouTube if you only know that one song, and she's just incredible. But Keith Gordon is, I saw Back to School recently. He's in that movie with Rodney Dangerfield. Ugh. He's so good. I think this is his first film.
I think so, too.
Yeah. It's a small budget, $300,000. Saul Zantz is the producers. It's MGM. It's a small production. They had $100,000 for, I think, they only had $30,000 for the music, and they were going to use David Bowie's.
Okay, we have to talk about this soundtrack. This soundtrack, I so remember. Okay, saw this in the movie theater. I was 1988. I was maybe a sophomore, junior in high school in a Catholic high school. I was a co-ed Catholic high school. We have a boys' Catholic high school and a girls' Catholic high school, but I was at the co-ed one. And I remember seeing this in the movie theater, and the soundtrack. We have Yaz. We call in the U.S. we call them Yaz, but it's Yazoo in the U.K.
Yeah, I wondered about that. So it's called Yazoo in the U.K.?
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, Yazoo is
here.
their name.
Okay.
Yazoo is the name. For some reason in the U.S. they thought we couldn't say Yazoo or we wouldn't say it. I don't know why we couldn't say it,
That's
but
so bizarre.
they changed it to Yaz. So here it's Yaz. But if you're from the U.K., our listeners from the U.K., of course you know them as Yazoo. We have Peter Gabriel, by the way. Couple of songs, who was a superstar at this time. He's a big name. And they wanted to have Heroes at the end, which would have been a great song to have at the end, but they didn't have the budget. I mean, they wanted half of the budget just for that one song, basically, of the whole movie. And so they said, okay, well, we won't use Heroes. What should we use? Oh, let's use this song by Kate Bush.
Which is a good song
And it's
to
great.
use. It works.
It's such an 80s emo synth. There's no
Anthem.
Depeche Mode, but we're Depeche Mode adjacent with Yazoo. Great music. And I mean, the one thing that I think is so well done about this movie is the music and how it's where it's used and how it's used. I think is so brilliant. I cannot believe that they got these songs on the budget that they had. I can't even believe it.
Alison Moyet also is just a phenomenal singer. I mean,
love her voice.
I love her voice so much. She's. Do you remember if there was this big thing? They're still on YouTube. It's these. I can't remember their names, but there's these two boys, and they look at videos and they just kind of react to songs. And they were the ones that looked at the Phil Collins song in the Here Tonight. They freaked out at that one point. They were looking at Don't Go by Yazoo. And they're just seeing this guy and this woman in the 80s outfits. And all of a sudden, Allison just starts singing, and they both went,
I know.
Because it's so like...
Her voice, I mean, it's such a great... And it's so perfect in this movie. It's done so, so well.
Yeah.
Oh, this movie. So I was saying before we got on the air, like, to me, the book held up better than I remembered, and the movie held up worse than I remembered. I loved this movie when I saw it. You know, I was the same age as Jerry is supposed to be. I was probably like 14, 15. And I loved it. And the music, I mean, that was so my music. And I would just like, just to see it on screen. And it's a Catholic high school. I mean, obviously there was lots of stuff for me there to enjoy, but it still falls short. And just to put it in perspective for us, there's some really great stuff about this movie, but I think, you know, overall, and it doesn't quite get up that hill. But to put it in perspective, this is 1 year before Dead Poet Society.
Yeah. Yes.
Also about a boys' school, also with many of these same themes. And I think arguably handles them much more deftly. But what did you think of the movie? Because you saw it back in the day and you saw it again. So what, do you agree with me or am I yucking your yum?
No, you're not yucking my yum. I feel the same way. I think that for me, some of the casting is great. Some of the casting, I'm a little like, I like Adam Baldwin very much, but he's
I think the cast
30 years old. I mean, around 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is he doing there?
It's inconsistent.
He's like twice as tall. He really looks like he's as old as Brother Leon. I think John Glover as Brother Leon is great.
He's great. I think overall the casting is good. He's really scary.
He's super scary. I think, is it Ilan or Ian Mitchell Smith? He's from Weird Science.
I want to say Ian. I want to say it's pronounced Ian. What an interesting guy, by the way.
Oh, he's brilliant.
He's super brilliant.
Yeah, yeah.
He has a PhD in medieval history. He's a professor.
Yeah.
He's a medievalist. Super, super smart. Very talented actor, obviously. Didn't do enough. I mean, I think overall the casting is good. I think overall everybody's acting really well.
Yeah.
I think it's the script and the direction that are failing us here.
Doug Hutchinson, by the way, he does look 18. He was 27 when he did that part. He plays Obi. They do change a couple of things. I mean, in this here, he fights Archie. He doesn't fight.
Right. So the end, that's the end. It's totally, totally different. Most of the movie up until that point is pretty true to the book, except that it's set in the 80s as opposed to the 70s.
Right.
It's not set right after the end of the Vietnam War. It's not set right after like this whole counterculture rocking the boat kind of. It's in the 80s, which is this Reagan-esque, the 50s come back with a vengeance kind of era. We're just like we're getting ready to embark on family values and whatnot, like things like that whole lovely era.
Yeah.
So it's a different time, and which I think is fine. I think I don't have a problem with that. Unlike the book, this is where I think there's a big fail with the movie. I love the cast, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the big fail of the movie is that the movie is relying on the dialogue of the book, which, as we said before, is not that great. It's supposed to be not that great. We're supposed to have inner turmoil of every single character, but what comes out of their face is, you better be there. It's not great dialogue. It's not supposed to be great dialogue. These are people who are emotionally inept, who are, they're very young, or they're very stupid, or they're very evil. They're not the greatest communicators. It's like kind of the whole thing about all of these characters. And so to have none of their inner, except for these dream sequences, and even those are kind of not fabulous.
No.
But to have it relying on just the dumb dialogue, I thought was a really terrible choice. And we've seen filmmakers who can do that really well. This is not one of those times.
He's by the way, he directed a lot of episodes of Fargo, which is the latest Fargo. He's an excellent director. I mean, this is his first time out, and it's a small budget. It's his first time out. I mean, so I'm not going to say anything about that, but I do like John Glover. I think he's great as an evil brother. I think he's
super good.
He's super
as the
good
baddie.
and scaring the crap out of these kids. You can see why he sets the tone, especially the one where he has Bailey come up to the class and says, "Why are you so dumb?
that's
Why-"
yeah.
Bailey,
Yes, Brother Leon.
why do you find it necessary to cheat? Is silence an admission of guilt, Bailey? Oh, Bailey, what are we going to do about you?
I don't cheat, Brother Leon.
But look at the evidence, Bailey. Your marks, all A's, every test, every paper. Only a genius is capable of that kind of performance. Do you claim to be a genius, Bailey? I'll admit you look like one. Those big ears and that little face all pinched up and that little tiny kind of baby walk you do. Oh, God. Oh. Bailey.
Yes?
You haven't answered my question, Bailey. Well?
I don't cheat, Brother Leon.
Then how do you account for all those A's, Bailey?
I don't know.
Are you perfect, Bailey? All those A's, that implies perfection. Is that it, Bailey? Only God is perfect, Bailey. Do you compare yourself to God? If God is perfect and you are perfect, Bailey, doesn't that suggest something to you, Bailey? The other alternative is that, of course, you're not perfect. And of course you're not. I know you wouldn't be so blasphemous as to compare yourself to God. Would you, Bailey?
No, Brother Leon.
Which leaves us with only one conclusion. You cheat. You're a cheat, Bailey. And a liar. Wait a minute. Wait a minute! Nobody moves. You poor fools. You idiots. Do you know who is the best man here? The bravest of them all? It's Gregory Bailey, that's who. He denied cheating. He stood up to my accusations, stood his ground. But you, gentlemen, you sat there and enjoyed yourselves. And those of you who didn't enjoy yourselves, you allowed it to happen. You turned this classroom into Nazi Germany for a few moments.
That was good because it just like really set the tone of like
where you're like, what's this guy's deal?
What's the freaking thing? But I did some of the acting or some of that. I mean, the casting choices. I was like, well, like with Jerry's father was a very kind of the home scenes were just not
very weird. I mean, I know he's supposed to be mourning, and we're in our two mourning worlds, and they're not connecting. But we're just not. It's just not quite getting us there,
right?
With that relationship, and that's really unfortunate.
And then we have, and I don't know, like about you when I was a high school student, how many times I've seen The Wall, like or hung around so many boys or had interest in so many boys that watched The Wall, like on a
it was
loop.
Such y'all do not even know. Millennials, you have no idea how plagued by this movie we were. It was like, it was sort of like, I remember being in high school and it was like on MTV all the time.
Yes.
And I'm not like, I mean, Pink Floyd is fine and whatever. But to me, there was an era where it was like, oh, you want to hear a record? How about The Wall? Oh, you want to watch a movie? How about The Wall? Oh, you know what you want to watch is The Wall.
And I like
it was
The Wall.
like everywhere.
Fine. But there's like
it's
4 or
fine.
5 songs I really like on there, but like the rest of it, I'm like, oh, yeah,
Must
this
we?
is so must we. But Jenny Wright is in the movie. She's the groupie in the scene. Yeah. She's somebody like she's in a lot of great movies. I'm like, why is she playing? She looks like she's 10 years older than him. And is she like a girlfriend interest? I guess what?
What's that about?
What is going on? Is she a high school kid? She's also somebody like, I think you and I have talked about this before. Like, this is something for millennials that they never believe, but there used to be a smokers quad in my high school. there used to be a
It's
spot.
true.
They let
Absolutely
kids smoke cigarettes.
Oh yeah,
They didn't
We
try to
talked
fight
about it when we talked about Almost Famous, the opening scene where he's standing on that wall. That was where the smokers would stand.
Yeah. And so
Yeah,
that
I mean,
rings
these are
true.
kids who are like 15.
Yeah.
That's where they would go to smoke.
But she has a whole scene where Lisa, who's, and I love her. I think she's great, Jenny.
She's not a bad performance.
Right, but it's like she's coming up to him like, hey, man, you're middle-aged. Why are you going on the bus? I'm like, why is she hitting on this 15-year-old? Like, she's super cute. She's like, what are you doing? What is she doing?
Hey, kid. How come you stare at us? How come you stand here every day and stare at us? We're not in a zoo, if that's what you think.
Look, I don't stare.
Yes, you do. You stand here every day and you stare at us. We're not subhuman, you know.
I didn't say you were.
But you look it.
Look, I gotta catch my bus.
What bus? You know who's subhuman? You are. Going to school every day on the bus and coming home every day on the bus. It's sort of like you're middle-aged at 15. Oh, well, you better catch your bus. I mean, don't miss that bus, boy, because you're missing an awful lot. Don't want to miss that bus.
Also, the scene where they unscrewed all the stuff, and it's Brother Jacques. That's who we forgot. And Bud Court, we covered.
Bud Court is Brother Jacques, but there's the other brother. There's a third brother.
Yeah,
That's the one with
brother.
the screws, where they unscrewed the thing. Okay, I'm going to find it.
Yeah, because they switched them in the movie. Bud Court plays, and we talked about Harold and Maude last summer, I believe it was. And then there's also a scene where Bud Court, where he says environment, like every time he says environment, they have to get out of their seats and just like they're always just up to shenanigans. And then after a while, that gets a little bit.
It's Brother Eugene. Brother Eugene is the one that they unscrew his whole classroom, and he's the one that has the little bit of a break. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know. This is something I don't understand. And then watching the movie, because there's so many scenes with the Vigils, like why doesn't anybody just come up with a counter gang?
Right?
Right?
Why do you care?
What are we even doing?
And why
here?
are you showing up? They're like, show up at 6:15, and people do it. Why are you doing that?
There's a scene where a kid goes, "Hey, you can't even take care of this little skinny freshman kid," and they just go beat him up, and like 20 of them beat him up. I'm like, why doesn't he find 20 guys and then comes back and kicks their butts? Like that's how it works at my neighborhood. That's how it worked at my high school.
I don't get it.
I don't understand.
It's weird, but okay.
And so that's when they bring Adam Baldwin in, who's John Carter, and then he's. I'm like, why are they not listening to this guy? He seems to be the most in charge. I mean, I like the actor. He's Wallace Langham. He's really unrec. I mean, they all look so different because they have these little baby faces. It's so
they're all
funny.
baby face. He's from Larry Sanders.
Yes. Was he?
He
on
was the head
CSI
writer.
too, or he was he's been on a bunch of things.
Oh, he's in all kinds of things. Yeah,
he's very.
He had a weird run-in with the law.
Oh, did he?
Oh yeah, around 2000, so like 20 years ago now. But yeah, he got into a fight. I have to look it up, but he got into a fight. It was one of those things, like he was out with his girlfriend and a reporter was bothering them, and he got into a fight with the reporter, and apparently like in the course of the fight, he started using like homophobic slurs or something like that. Yikes. I hope I'm remembering that wrong, and I'm not just saying terrible things about Wally, what's his name? But anyway, but he always plays like a weasel. Kind of smarmy, weaselly kind of a guy, and he does it really well. And this is again a very early role for him.
Come on, Archie. You know my name.
Cut the crap, Bolo. Let's hear your name.
My name is Frankie Bolo. What's yours?
You think you're a big shot, don't you?
A big shot. You said it, not me.
Well, we like big shots, don't we? You see, our specialty is turning big shots into little shots.
You're not impressing anyone.
What did you say?
Hey, guys. I'm not some scared little kid who pisses his pants because the big bad Vigils invite him to an inquisition. Hell, you guys couldn't even scare a punk freshman into selling your lousy...
See you later, Polo.
Quiet down. Quiet down. Shut up. Quiet. Sit down. When a punk like Bolo comes in here and challenges the Vigils, there's something wrong. And we can't afford this. Word'll spread, and the Vigils will be history. You know what's wrong here? We are.
How come we're wrong?
2 reasons. First, because we allowed our name to get connected with the goddamn chocolate sale, like it was our baby or something. And second, because like Bola said, we let a punk freshman make fools of us. Right, Archie? Show him what you found this morning, Obi.
I spotted it because I was late for math. It was on the bulletin board in the main corridor. Now, I went by a minute before and it wasn't there, so chances are hardly anybody saw it.
You're the brain, Arch. You got us into this mess. Where do we go from here?
This, I think, is where we could have used a lot more direction. His direction seems to be really inconsistent.
Yeah, sometimes
I'm
he
not
feels
faulting
bad,
him for
or
that.
sometimes he does, and sometimes he seems like a psycho. I think
it's a little weird.
In the movie, he and Obi kind of switch power, which I think is smart. Like that's something, a change from the book. Obi is the one now that gives the orders.
Yeah,
Obi is
in the
not
book,
smart.
it's 2 other people altogether. But it's nice, it works. It's for the movie, it's fine.
And then in the movie, we also have the scene what I was saying that when they do finally show up, and it's the big boxing match. This time, Archie's the one that has to fight him. Jerry, in the movie, it's a change in that he beats the snot out of him. He just really pummels him.
Totally different from the book.
Yes.
The whole thing. So there's a thing in the secret society. Again, it's like, this is a year before Dead Poet Society. We have a secret society at an all-boys school. Archie, because he's the one who doles out these quote-unquote assignments, part of kind of keeping him on the straight and narrow is they have a box of marbles, like when you're voting somebody into a fraternity or whatever, like they do. There's all white marbles and 1 black marble. If Archie reaches in and draws the black marble, then he has to do the assignment himself, and that's supposed to keep him in line, but he never, ever does it. In the book, by the time they get to the fight, in the book, the Vigils, everybody has had it with Archie. Everybody is like, this guy is out of control. And the Vigils try to rig it. So they have a box with all black marbles, I think. Mm-hmm. And what happens is Archie, we find out, Archie never even really reaches in the box because he always has a white marble on him. And so he reaches in a box of black marbles and amazingly produces a white marble. And the fight goes on as planned in the book. In the movie, however, he draws the black marble, and it's this big moment. Changes the message of the whole thing a bit.
Yeah.
But as a movie watcher, it's very satisfying to see him get the snot beat out of him.
Yeah, he's laying there, and then they don't have the lights go out or anything. I like this ending. I like having him standing there, and they're all cheering him on, and he realizes, oh, I've become the thing that I was fighting against. And then he just says, oh, I should have just sold the chocolates. Like, what was I even doing here?
Yeah.
And that's sad. And like he's there with his friend Goober, like, and his friend Goober's like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And he realizes, no, I've gone really far anyway. And they kind of leave it at
But again, he's 15.
He's a kid. You're a freshman.
He's making this realization at 15. I mean, there are people who are 55 that don't have this realization.
Right.
You know, he and Goober both, yeah, he has this moment of like, why am I fighting this kid? Why did I allow myself to get stuck? Why did I even show up again? And I think, you know, again, it's a slightly different message than in the book. Again, Brother Leon doesn't really face any consequences because they sell the chocolates once again.
Yeah, Archie, they're really selling. I even bought 2 myself, huh?
What'd you pick?
Right cross to the jaw, and an uppercut. I almost gave him to Renault out of pity, but I figure what the hell, he's got it coming to him, right?
It's a beautiful night. See, I told you everyone was panicking for nothing.
I don't know how you do it, Arch.
Simple. See, Carter, people are 2 things. Greedy and cruel. And we've got the perfect setup. Greed. A kid pays $2 for a chance to win $200 plus $50 of chocolate. And the cruel part? Watching 2 guys hitting each other in the ring, unable to defend themselves, under their commands while they're safe in the bleachers. That's why it works, Carter. Because we're all bastards.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So in the end, Obi's the one who's giving the orders, and they're pretty gross, and he has no imagination. And Archie,
they're so dumb. They're like so terrible.
They're just gross, and that's when the Kate Bush song kicks in, and then they go right to the credits. And I love the Peter Gabriel credits because it's all about, because of his work with Amnesty International, he is giving us his songs. Which, thank you, Mr. Gabriel. And I did you go to the Amnesty International shows? They were touring.
I never got to go to any of them.
I just was.
I
was great
wish I could have
at
gone.
The Cow Palace, and it was like
wow,
Peter Gabriel and Sting and U2, and it was really, really cool. It was very, very cool. And that's the movie. And I guess, yeah, you and I both feel like the book was better. You know.
Yeah, it holds up better. I think it addresses the themes more effectively. And I think, you know, missing from the movie is all of the wonderful interior life of all of the characters. And instead relying on these kind of not awesome dream sequences of Jerry's to do the job
field.
Of that.
That looks so cheap. I was like,
I know, like really?
That was not necessary.
We didn't need to do this.
We couldn't find a funeral home to do this. Like
you had one location, okay. Ooh. Then maybe we don't have to do this scene. Yeah, I know. But the soundtrack is awesome. I think the location, it's in Washington State, just outside of Seattle. I think the location is really good. I think that there's lots of things that are really good about this movie. I think overall it doesn't really quite hold up. The pacing is very, very slow. In many places, it just drags on and on and on, these conversations that are not very interesting because, again, they're relying on the dialogue from the book. So that's unfortunate. But there's some good stuff there. I think, like I said, if it had gone into production after Dead Poets Society, I think it might have been a better movie. And also, the other thing it reminded me of that came later, I think it's, we're trying this, even though it's a book from the 70s, I think if we had waited until after Dead Poets Society, if we had waited until after Rushmore, it might have been a better movie.
I think they could do it again. I think that.
Yeah. Oh, I totally think it could be done again.
Yeah. I think it's also worth seeing, though. I mean, if you had read the book,
definitely,
in the past, especially because it's banned. I say if it's banned, go check it out because.
Oh, absolutely do. Yes, definitely. And the movie also is not.
There's some cursing, like
Very light cursing.
Light cursing. There's no nudity. There's no drug use. There's no
There's
drinking.
one girl. She's dressed the whole time.
Got a leather jacket on. She dressed like me. Like I dressed, I think, from 85 to 95, I think.
Yeah, it's very tame. And yeah, I'd like to know if you guys are in the Facebook group, like, why do you think this book was banned? What do you guys think? But for me, it's definitely book.
Yeah.
I got to go with the book.
Yeah.
Love the book.
Yeah, definitely. And if there's some middle schooler in your life, if they don't have this book, get this book for them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, what are we doing next for Banned Book Month?
Well, we got some ideas. Slaughterhouse-5, but that's like $275.
Slaughterhouse-5. That would be fun. We could talk about Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah. He's also in Back to School.
Mm-hmm. I love Kurt Vonnegut. Yeah, let's do. I don't mind doing that because I've read it before.
Yeah, me too. It's $275. That's not too bad.
Yeah,
and it's streaming everywhere.
Oh, good.
Let's do Kurt
Yeah,
Vonnegut.
let's do that. Okay, cool.
Oh, I love it. Okay. All right, you guys. So we're gonna do Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse-5 next. I love Banned Book Month. This is fun.
Me too.
And
we were just saying that we've done a lot of banned books in the past, just here and there. We've done To Kill a Mockingbird. We did Of Mice and Men. We've done a few banned books, but I love having the whole month.
Yes.
I don't think we've done that before, have we? Did we do it last year?
Just the first time.
I don't think so. Okay, cool.
So, Margot, where can they find you?
You can find me online at coloniabook.com, and all of my social media callouts are at She's Not Your Mama. And where can they find you and pre-order your book, Margot D?
My book is called Filmed in Brooklyn. You can find it at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, everywhere you pre-order books at Margot Donahue, Filmed in Brooklyn. You can find me at brooklynfitchick.com, and I am at Twitter and Instagram at brooklynfitchick, and on TikTok at Margot Donahue. Thank you so much, Margot, for letting me do that. And we will be back soon with a new episode. Everybody, please wear your masks when you're on planes. Please, please, please.
Please.
Don't let us
Stay
get
safe
sick.
out there, folks.
Running up that hill. Thank you so much for listening to the Book versus Movie podcast. We are a part of the Frolic Podcast Network. You can find more podcasts you will love at frolic.media/podcasts. We follow the hashtags LadyPodSquad and Podern Family. If you want to support the show, you can go to our Patreon page, go to Patreon, and look for Book versus Movie podcast. We have a basic Facebook page, but we also have a private Facebook group. Go to Facebook and type in Book vs. Movie Podcast Group if you want to join that. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Book vs. Movie. Spell all those words out. If you'd like to send us an email, it's Book vs. Movie Podcast, spell that all out, at gmail.com. You can follow Margot D at Brooklyn Fit Chick on social media, and Margot P at She's Nacho Mama. Thanks so much again for checking out our show, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.